Long ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a man named Jacob. Among all his sons, Jacob loved Joseph the most because he was born to him in Jacob's old age. To show his love, Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful robe. But Joseph's brothers became jealous. They had no idea that God had an extraordinary plan for Joseph's life. As Joseph grew older, God gave him remarkable dreams. In one dream, Joseph and his brothers were tying bundles of grain in the field. Suddenly, his brothers' bundles bowed down to his. In another dream, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. Joseph shared these dreams with his family, but instead of rejoicing, his brothers became even more jealous. They believed Joseph was claiming he would one day rule over them. Joseph's dreams filled his brothers with anger and jealousy. They could not accept the idea that one day Joseph might be greater than they were. Every time they looked at his special robe, their resentment grew stronger. Hatred began to replace brotherly love. Although Jacob treasured Joseph, his brothers secretly plotted against him. They waited for the perfect opportunity to get rid of the dreamer once and for all. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers as they tended their flocks far from home. When they saw Joseph approaching in his colorful robe, they recognized him from a distance. Filled with hatred, they said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer." They seized Joseph, tore off his beautiful robe, and threw him into a deep, empty pit. Alone and frightened, Joseph cried out for mercy, but his brothers refused to listen. Even in that dark moment, God had not abandoned him. As Joseph sat helpless in the pit, a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants traveling to Egypt passed by. Seeing an opportunity to profit, Judah suggested, "What will we gain if we kill our brother? Let's sell him instead." His brothers pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him for 20 pieces of silver. The merchants bound Joseph and led him away toward Egypt. Then the brothers dipped Joseph's colorful robe in goat's blood and took it back to their father, making Jacob believe that a wild animal had killed his beloved son. Jacob wept bitterly, unaware that God was already working behind the scenes to fulfill his greater plan. When Joseph arrived in Egypt, he was sold to Potiphar, an important officer in Pharaoh's court. Though Joseph was far from his family and living as a servant in a foreign land, he chose to remain faithful to God. The Lord blessed everything Joseph did, and soon Potiphar noticed his honesty, wisdom, and hard work. Trusting him completely, Potiphar placed Joseph in charge of his entire household. Even in difficult circumstances, God was with Joseph, preparing him for a greater purpose that he could not yet see. But Joseph's faithfulness was soon tested. Potiphar's wife repeatedly tried to tempt him, but Joseph refused, saying, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" One day, when they were alone in the house, she grabbed his cloak. Joseph fled, leaving the cloak behind. Angry at being rejected, she falsely accused him of attacking her. Potiphar believed the accusation, and though Joseph had done nothing wrong, he was thrown into prison. Even in injustice and suffering, the Lord remained with Joseph. Joseph was taken to an Egyptian prison, even though he had committed no crime. Yet the Lord never left him. Instead of giving in to despair, Joseph remained faithful, kind, and trustworthy. Before long, the prison warden noticed Joseph's character and placed him in charge of the other prisoners. Even behind prison walls, God continued to bless Joseph and prepare him for the incredible future that lay ahead. As the years passed, Joseph remained faithful in prison. One day, two of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, were imprisoned with him. Both men had troubling dreams on the same night. Joseph said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." Through God's wisdom, Joseph explained that the cupbearer would be restored to Pharaoh's service in 3 days, but the baker would be executed. Exactly as Joseph had said, both dreams came true. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph pleaded, "Please remember me when you return to Pharaoh." But after he was restored to his position, the cupbearer forgot Joseph. For 2 more years, Joseph remained in prison, trusting that God's timing is always perfect. 2 years later, Pharaoh was deeply troubled by mysterious dreams that no one in Egypt could explain. Suddenly, the chief cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh about the Hebrew prisoner who had correctly interpreted his dream. Joseph was quickly brought from prison, shaved, dressed in clean clothes, and stood before Pharaoh. Joseph humbly said, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." God revealed that the dreams meant Egypt would enjoy 7 years of abundant harvest, followed by 7 years of severe famine. Joseph wisely advised Pharaoh to store grain during the years of plenty. Amazed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him governor over all Egypt, second only to the king. In a single day, God lifted Joseph from a prison cell to a palace, proving that his plans always prevail. Just as God had revealed, 7 years of abundance were followed by a devastating famine. People from many lands traveled to Egypt to buy grain, including Joseph's own brothers. They bowed before him without realizing he was the brother they had sold into slavery years earlier. After testing their hearts and seeing that they had truly changed, Joseph could no longer hold back his tears. He revealed himself saying, "I am Joseph, your brother." His brothers were terrified, but Joseph comforted them. "Do not be afraid. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to save many lives." Joseph forgave them with love and invited them to bring their father, Jacob, and the entire family to live safely in Egypt. When Jacob heard that Joseph was still alive and ruling over Egypt, he could hardly believe the news. But after seeing the wagons Pharaoh had sent, he knew it was true. Jacob and his entire family traveled to Egypt, where Joseph rushed to meet his father. After more than 20 years apart, father and son embraced each other with tears of joy. Years later, after Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers feared that he would finally take revenge. Instead, Joseph reassured them with words that have inspired generations. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph continued to care for his family, showing that forgiveness is stronger than hatred, and that God can turn even the darkest moments into his perfect plan. The story of Joseph reminds us that God is always with those who trust him. Even when life seems unfair, God is working behind the scenes, transforming pain into purpose and trials into blessings.